Okay, sounds like we might be there. Thank you, your patient, everybody. It wasn't you, it was us.
All right, so why don't we restart? And I think too, this is the first time we've done this particular training and designed it, so we're going to do our best to move through as quick as possible in terms of the agenda, and just ask you to bear with us a little bit. First, just real quick, if you are on the call, and if you could, there's a text feature, if you could let us know that you're hearing us, and also we're asking if people can just type in their name and where they're from, so we can have an idea of who is joining. Hopefully everybody has managed to stay on. I want to turn it real quick over to my co-presenter. I'm Nick. I'm with the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance as a community organizer, and I help co-coordinate the Resident Action Project along with Divya.
And hi, as Nick said, I'm Divya, also with the Resident Action Project at the Housing Alliance. I see we have a couple of people. We have Earl from Everett. We have Ren Autry from Vancouver in the room with us. We have Belinda Springer from Des Moines.
Close enough.
Close enough. And we have Nicholas Arndt from Seattle.
Hello, hello.
Oh, wow, and we have more. We have Lisa Stridinger and James Lovelady from Centralia. And please say where you're from, because I'm doing this all from memory, and it is very likely that I will get it wrong. We have Katie Hines from the Center for Community Change. We have Angela Compton in Seattle. So thank you all so much for joining us. And again, throughout this presentation, if you're on, feel free to use the chat box, let us know.
Great, and so I'm going to just kind of give an overview of the agenda, just so you know kind of what to expect today, and certainly if we aren't able to give as much time as we like just due to the late start and due to this, you can at least have an idea of kind of where we're going. That'll also give some more time for those of you who haven't been able to let us know that you're on the call to do so, and after I go through this, we'll just take a brief pause to tell if there's anyone else who has joined us, and we'll move forward through the training. So we're going to kind of go through a progression of things, kind of from the bigger and more broad down to the specific, and cover some ways that you can work together on the state level. So we're going to start talking a little bit about why getting involved with RAP can help you accomplish your goals, and some of the resources that we have for you, and certainly because as we'll talk about, being able to be together locally and then coming on together across the state is incredibly powerful. Then we're going to talk a little bit, just really touching just the tip of the iceberg, about reasons why a community group can be helpful, again, towards you accomplishing your goals and us accomplishing our goals to end homelessness, and assure that everyone has the opportunity for a safe, healthy place to live and call home. Then we're going to kind of go into kind of some steps, and these aren't really discrete. You're doing a lot of these things as you go along again and again, because movement is about continuity. Going to talk a little bit about kind of laying the foundation and making sure that you've got critical mass and a cross-section of your community together to work and build. The next section, and it's going to be the longest section probably, and we've got a star next to it because this is crucial, talking about forming an organizing committee within your community, because nobody can do this alone. Life is far too hectic. People have things they need to do. And when we come together to plan, it opens up our capacity as well as builds that community. I'm going to talk a little bit about nonprofit partnerships and how we can engage with people that are already doing work in the community. For example, yesterday we were up in, or whatever day it was, 2 days ago, we went up to Mount Vernon and to Bellingham, and Friendship House was able to pull together a group of their folks who I'm hoping will be joining us as well if they haven't already. And different aspects of that, followed by some general things you can do, and then some suggested next steps that follow the progression that we've been on and the things that we've agreed to do to kind of help get things rolling. So I am going to turn it back over to Divya. And if we have any more folks join, and we're only 5 minutes behind, so hopefully.
Thank you so much for joining. We have Chris with the Center for Community Change on the call as well. We have Jennifer Delia from Edmonds, and we have Arlene Salt from Mount Vernon. Yes, from Mount Vernon. So again, big warm welcome. Thank you all so much for joining. So why get involved with RAP? You all can probably say this just as well as I can. You all have been such a big instrumental part of RAP. But a major reason to get involved with RAP is to advance statewide policy change for housing justice and to end homelessness. We know that there are issues that are happening in various communities that are the same across the state. And so by coming together statewide, we can really change the policy and make Washington a better place for housing justice. And we're sharing information. We're hearing what's happening in different communities. So when we share something that's happening in their community, someone from maybe Bellingham hears it and goes, oh, what an interesting idea, or that's happening in your community too. So there's a real value in working together with communities, which is the next point, that you all are the experts. You know what's happening in your community, you know what's happening and what has happened in your lives, and you know what some of the solutions are. You have knowledge. So by being a part of RAP, you can learn from each other, connect with each other on a statewide platform. And while learning from each other, you can also learn from us. We have RAP trainings, we have activities, and you can really increase your advocacy and organizing skills that you already have, and you can just increase them through the statewide RAP trainings and activities that we have. And most importantly, through all of that, you can build relationships and connect with the important thing of why anyone should get involved with RAP, is that these relationships are so foundational and so important and power building and fun, and we're movement building. So I'll turn it over to Nick to talk more about why to get involved with RAP in terms of RAP resources.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's always important, and we'll actually get to this a lot just talking through the organizing committee, that the resources and the skills and the talents that we have available are in this movement as financial resources. You need both. But there's a number of things I think that we can provide to assist you in this effort. I think there's only, as you can see, a couple of us, and we can't be out with you in person as much as we would like. So we'd love to do that every day if we could. But there's a number of things we can do, I think, both the activities we do together and also being as a resource. You can contact us and we'll be glad to talk things through with you. Because as I said, this is, we're really only getting to a tip of the iceberg here, and there's a lot more depth, but we're hoping this kind of gets you an idea. So a big part of this is staff support from both the Housing Alliance and the Center for Change. And I think have enjoyed doing working with folks. And so we can talk to you kind of as advisors. We have a lot of educational materials. We can, because we're on a state level, be able to really reach out and connect broadly to bring in more allies. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And so you've already seen, many of you, I think, been on an excellent messaging training taught by Michael Anderson of the Center for Community Change. We also were able to get Michelle Thomas from here at the and strategies to help make those go well, especially here in the interim period. We were also, this isn't a training, but we were able to last week get on and do what we call a listening session because of the excellent advocacy that RAP leaders have already been doing. We passed an incredible amount of bills, and there are people on this call and even in this room where I am, thousands upon thousands of lives, and give us hope. And so we were able to get feedback about what's next. and what you think, especially as people, many of you, most of you have direct experience, what does that mean? This training, of course, and we're going to be having a storytelling training, and we're going to be learning about Get Out the Vote efforts. And as we talk, really want to encourage people to say, hey, we want to know about this. And this is one of the ways, incredible resources, and we work together to make those happen. We've also, as many folks have been on, started statewide calls so that we can learn from each other, so that Spokane and Seattle can talk, and Centralia and Vancouver, and we can all learn about what we're doing and check in to share strategy and spread out the work so that we can be more effective. We're also, you'll be hearing about this soon, going to be coming together in the fall for a statewide gathering so that you can meet each other. And the hope is that your organizing committee from your communities will be able to come and attend and help us build that even further, and that many of the nonprofit partners we talk about can help get folks there. We've also got the toolkit for organizing, and you'll hear, and I'm going to move a little bit quicker, canvassing and some of these other things, and it's about 80 pages, but it's on the residentactionproject.org, and we've also worked where we could to get hard copies for folks in different communities. And I think the biggest, and y'all are resources for each other, not only to teach each other practical skills and experiences, but also to be a community and know that together as RAP, we're part of something bigger than can create that community and that strength that can sustain us through these very, very difficult times for many of you personally, and certainly the state as a whole.
We have Mallory from Seattle on the call, who just typed in, and we have Teresa Clark from Seattle as well, who's part of the Housing Alliance. So again, thank you all for being on this training with us. So talked about why have a community group. There's a lot of power and a lot of, you all know your local areas, and you are the experts in your local area. And so by building local and connecting statewide, there's a lot of power there. And through all of that, you get to bring people together. You have your networks, you know people in your area, and you can bring even more people into this shared vision and the shared mission, continue point, accomplish common goals. Again, in your area, you know what issues are the most relevant. You know what issues are the most important. And you can push those issues while, you know, in the statewide level, we're all working towards ending homelessness, towards housing justice. And there's a lot of power in working together on a statewide level, but also coming together in your local level, on a local level, getting to know people, and really bringing that on in your important to have a community group. And why it can be really helpful is creating a sustainable community. This is really crucial because we can't do this alone. We need everyone working. We need a huge network of people so that health, whatever, there's a community there that can back you up, that can fill in, that can continue the work and continue the mission. And so by creating a sustainable community, by mentoring people, or by bringing in people with different talents towards this shared goal. And again, by doing that, you're addressing issues in your community, and that you can develop, you'll be developing a plan of action and a timeline, including regular activities. So again, you know your community, you know what events are happening, what would be, and you have, Nick and I can't always be there in person, but we can help you and give you advice and talk with you on the phone and provide resources. So we are always there for you in that regard, and please utilize us. And another reason why to have a community group is sharing sharing talent, sharing perspectives. Volleyball related, you're having that person in the background trying not to get. But on the other hand, if you're having your event on dodgeball and you want flyers and you want outreach, I'm your person. I have that talent, I'd like to think, offer. And by creating a community more exciting than coming together and planning an event and then seeing people there and knowing that you did that. And it can be fun. You can, you should be laughing and just like throwing out ideas. It is a fun thing to do. Community is just so fun in and of itself, that word. So there are so many reasons why to have, those are some reasons.
Right, and I'm going to see if we can catch up some time. So kind of the next section, you can see we've kind of talked a little bit about why and about how we can assist you. But now we're going to kind of move into the next steps, which is just kind of the process for getting that started. And so this first slide is titled Laying the Foundation. And before I even get into it, I think to varying degrees, many of you already have. Already working together, you're already supporting each other just by participating in your work. You know kind of who's working on what, and ideally those relationships to some extent are already built. I think about what works in your community and what doesn't, and this comes CultureWorks to the existing work that already has been happening and continues to happening, because we know that there are thousands of people and hundreds of organizations who are working very, very hard, who are providing services, who are building who are all of us, because when we all do better, we all do better. I think it's also very important to have one-on-one meetings, and this is one of those examples of where the toolkit has more information, and certainly are just so important. And just to give you a quick example, some of you know I was involved in some fights around clean water. And just like housing, clean water is one of those issues that brings people together off lines. And so I spent weeks really spending time and starting with people I know who are already active, maybe some of the nonprofit partners, people you know who are activists in the community. And then even more importantly, one, listening to learn. There can always be these conflicts that develop. And this is an opportunity to try and figure out ways to move as smoothly as possible for it, and also consider the unique role with RAP as a program led by people with direct experience, also be two-on-one meetings. But one thing too is that a lot of times if you start with, they're really busy and they have a lot going on. So often through your work, laying that foundation and learning who people who this maybe is their first time being an advocate, or something about what we're doing has said we're going to move forward with that. And by talking to people and expanding that social network, people who have that time and that ability to get involved often become leaders. There was a man named Bobby Jones in Goldsboro that I met through a friend of a friend of a friend, and soon enough he's acting as a volunteer organizer, and he made this his passion. It's also important to note, and this gets back to trying to know who's already working in your community, there's some folks that you don't expect to be involved. right? They're too busy. You know what their mission is. It's very important to meet with them too and let them know what you're doing and get your feedback on it. Because I think, and this is just real quick, RAP and our sister organization RUN, the Residents United network in California, and the Center for Community Change has been working with both groups. This project and this program and this movement was say, hey, we've got all these policy changes that need to happen, and we've got great service providers and affordable housing providers. They're lobbying, but the people who are directly impacted haven't been at that table, at least on a statewide policy level. And this is that opportunity, and I think it's no accident that, to use an analogy, the Super Bowl was won this year with an incredibly successful legislative session, and it's people like Nicholas and Mindy and Toya and Lisa Sawyer who told that and got it. So the key too, as part of this, and this is going to move on to the next slide, is this is your opportunity to find out who to bring into an initial organizing committee. And again, this may include some people who may not to be involved in the long term, who need to be there, and it's also the people that you identify as you're laying that foundation. So and this again, as I said, is STARD, and this is in everything that I've experienced as an organizer. The most effective way to accomplish our goals is to build a committee of different people who are working. And apologies for those who have heard this line many, many times, but I'm a big Beatles fan. And the Beatles were an excellent band. They're one of the most well-known and successful bands by any measure. But they weren't very good on their own. I'm not so impressed with Wings or the Ringo Starr experience, but when they combined their talents in one, and they spent those hours and hours building that community with each other and practicing and making each other better and identifying who's best at what, that made them great. And that's what makes an organizing committee great, because nobody can build a group on your own. It's not sustainable, it's not healthy. And organizing is about building power, which means we need lots of people. And there's a number of different techniques that we're gonna kind of go through. And I think the biggest, to get back to the piece about the Beatles, is we all have talents. We all have interests. We all have excellent things that we like to do and we like to share and we like to improve. And I'll use the sports analogy too. I was better at sports than Divya, and I'm pretty good. I was a baseball player and I was a left-handed pitcher. But you didn't want me playing shortstop. Wasn't very good at that. You didn't want me pinch running. But I played a role, just like everybody does on a team. And I often think about that as we work together, because we all have different talents. And to get more in the organizing context, as Divya said, she's really good at making flyers. She's also really good at making trainings and just being a positive influence. There's other people who are, you know this, but you're not the best at social media. You work your hardest, but Mindy's really dang good at it. And she handles a lot of that, especially on the Twitter. There's people who are good at designing meeting agendas. There's people who have a network, and they're the ones who can get, like Ren, she's got 300 people on her list. So that's a role that Ren can play. And that's so important. And also I'll say, I guess I already kind of just said that, but think about, and this is where this connects to your laying the foundation and learning about what's happening, is you can identify, hey, we need to get somebody from that constituency at the table. So to go back to my the clean water issue I talked about, and one I'll remark, Black and white people in this really conservative part of North Carolina had never, ever, ever worked together in a sustained way. And they have been working as a coalition, the Down East Coal Ash Coalition, for almost 4 years now, and have built real community. And one of the techniques they did with that is they alternated their meetings between a white church in the county and a Black church in town to gradually become more comfortable with each other's spaces. But they recognized that their common interest in clean water and a healthy community transcended a lot of that stuff. But it was through forming a committee and getting to know each other, sharing food and fellowship, that those bridges and those barriers really came down. And one of my favorite things about being an organizer, and I'm going to stop real quick, is the lifelong friendships and relationships and the value because in this world, there's a lot of really bad stuff. And it's those relationships and combining talents that can help move us forward. And you've heard sustainable many times, and that's intentional because that's our goal. The other piece is that we're going to move on and just going to talk a little bit more about this, and we're going to get in committee. Join the committee. We're having our next meetings. So anytime you're ready to do that, and that's how you can identify people with talents and even uncover talents. And I think as this grows, it's an incredible opportunity for people who have experience to mentor people with less experience, and that furthers those goals and makes us more effective in accomplishing our goals to end homelessness.
Because it's so important, no one can build a group on their own. And so here are some roles that an organizing committee can serve, but again, you need more people than just yourself. Person on the organizing committee, 2 people, or the entire organizing committee can serve as a point of contact for the statewide staff. So as we're planning our collective statewide mission and vision, you know, we can talk with you about how your event or your activity or your community meeting can relate to that, and how, and to give resources to be a support for you. So that's a huge role of the organizing committee. Another one is to plan consistent activities to engage the larger group. So again, going back to what Nick said, this is where people in the organizing committee can come together and share their different talents. If someone is good at facilitating, if someone is good at creating an agenda, you know, use that. Use your strengths and plan activities to keep the momentum going and keep people excited with RAP. Another piece of the organizing committee is you all have networks. You all know your community and know other community members, and you know organizations in your area. So you can ask affordable housing and service providers to join and provide resources and support to continue on the work that we're all doing. Turn it over to Nick to talk more about asking affordable housing and service providers to join.
Sure, and so we are actually close to back on time. I've hopefully not jinxed us in that, and I will do my best to not be the one who's at fault for getting behind. So a big part of this, and I think pieces of our movement, they can really complement each other and come together and bring resources to the table, whether financial or in kind, and we can talk more about kind of what some of those might be. But especially service providers and affordable housing providers and people who are working really on the front lines and who are in contact with folks who can become RAP leaders, people who are currently homeless, people who are affordable housing residents, because I think it's really important right now, and the Housing Alliance is really starting to, we got to collect stories of success. Right? There's lots of, but there's also stories of success. This policy kept me in my home. This policy allowed me to go to school. I had a real rough time. I didn't have a stable place to live, and this policy and this provider means so also, like we saw yesterday, I'll mention, or Wednesday, I always confuse days. You know, we were in Mount Vernon, and it was really great because we went up to Bellingham, and at least half, if not more, of the Mount Vernon group had a van that Friendship House had, and they drove up and were able to come together. And I know too, like I've been talking with Reed down in Vancouver and have really met a couple amazing resident leaders there. It's like, hey, can you help provide food for this meeting? Hey, can you help get transportation? And this is going to be especially important when we start talking about our statewide meeting that's going to be coming up in September, and there will be opportunities to learn more and get involved with planning for everybody. I think also to others to spread that word, especially as we're talking about policies in the legislature. This stuff changes on a daily basis, and it's like, oh, these 3 senators right now we have to call because they're in this committee. And being able to spread out to those networks and get the word out is incredibly important. And also I keep mentioning Mount Vernon, but I know they've done this, is you've got a community room. When there's a training for RAP or a call for RAP, let's use that space and invite everybody there to come and be together, because even if we're connecting remotely, that's a good thing. And then also to help us, because we have from people who can use wide movement, we've got to develop that again if we're going to be sustainable.
Great, and I just want to take a minute or two for a quick exercise. If you have paper and a pen in front of you, or if you can just make a mental note, take 1 or 2 minutes and think, and actually, think of names. Who are 3 to 5 people that you'd like to invite to your organizing committee right now that just come to the top of your head? And what is one nonprofit organization you can partner with in your community? And what makes a strategic partnership? So take a minute and just think quickly, write it down, who you would like to invite and who you could partner with, and you now have to start your organizing committee and your partnerships that way. All right, great. Well, I hope that was a useful exercise. And again, and Nick and I are here as resources if you want to brainstorm. So just maybe a couple more seconds, think more on who you'd like to invite. All right, well,
before I just say, this is something that I'm sure, but as you leave this call and think about it, you'll have the opportunity to make more lists and start thinking about who you want to meet with one-on-one to talk strategy next. So that'll be another project for you, your homework after the training. So sorry.
Good. Or setting up meetings, but once you've got your organizing committee, you're ready to start having community meetings. And so we're going to quickly go through some demystifying it for you and going into the content of meetings as well. So the most important thing, cannot stress this enough, is to set the time, date, and location of the meeting. You want to find the most inclusive time, and you want to find out if the meeting consists of other community events. So for instance, in your community, if Tuesday event happening every week that everyone goes to, you probably don't want to pick Tuesday as the day of the meeting. Maybe Wednesday's a better day, maybe Thursday. And also along with that, you want to make a plan for accessibility, for childcare. Learn about what the other needs in your community, what needs that people may have in your community, and try to make a plan for that ahead of time so that nothing comes up, nothing surprising comes up at the meeting. And when you're setting the time, date, and location of the meeting, once you set that weeks in advance if possible, really try to do it as early as possible to your meeting. Those are the 3 things, the 3 most crucial things that you need to invite people to your meeting. And when you invite people to your meeting, you have organizational networks now. You'll have networks in terms of your organizing committee, in terms of your own community knowledge, and with the nonprofit partnerships, you'll have organizations as well. So reach out to people, ask them their own networks. And once you invite people to your meeting and share the word before the meeting. Everyone has busy lives. I'm sure we all have a million things going on, and things can fall through the cracks. No matter how much people actually want to be there, we forget. We're human. So try to remind people at least twice before the meeting, and email and social media is very helpful. Meet with people, if you call people, maybe even a text. But email is great, but really the more personal the connection, the more personal the reminder, the more likely it is the person will come to the meeting. Exclamation point, bring food. I'm sure you have all been at meetings where all you can, your stomach's grumbling and you are so hungry and all you can think about is maybe eating some greasy pizza and you are not focused on what people are saying, no matter how much you actually care about what they're saying, your body's taking over. So the way is to bring food to the event. And this can be anything. It can be, chips, fruit. I mean, you know what job again, but make sure to bring food.
Is every month we had a regular community meeting, and we ended up deciding the fourth Thursday of the month was the time for that, and then we would people to join that. Example of where the tool what goals, Mr. B. So you identify what goals that you have, and so you kind of get the agenda, you come up with it to help do that. And part of this too is both an opportunity to have a successful meeting and also increase the leadership ability and the experience of your organizing committee members. So this gets back to the point about combining our talents. And so sometimes you may have somebody who they can give the welcome. And that's just kind of a side note. If you've got a location, the first thing you should always do is thank your host for providing that. It just really helps, and it's the right thing to do, because having a space is a really big deal. You also may have somebody who can help facilitate the meeting. There may be presenting information. So it's like, we want to give people an update about this bill. So who on your organizing committee is going to talk about the bill? Who, let's say you, and we'll talk about this more specifically, that, we're going to talk about the in-district legislative meetings. And so one thing is, you can use your committee to help set up that meeting, and then we're going to suggest that folks have a report back meeting. So roles of that meeting would be the people who went to the delegation, and you could decide who was going to report back. I think it's also very important to have your next activity planned so that people know what is next. And this also gets back to the date, time, location, because if you don't know exactly when you're doing stuff, it's really hard to get the word out. So we would always strive, let's say, we have a community meeting for our clean water group, and we know that there's going to be a press conference the next week that we're going to do before the city council meeting. We have flyers for that ready, and we're able to tell people this is what's next. And actually, this will help cover a little more ground. What we're going to kind of suggest and run through at the end is come back, report back, You know, your goal of your meeting and purpose is to get people in the room to learn about RAP and advocacy, and also to learn what their legislators are doing. It's also an opportunity under this kind of timeline to say, hey, well, let's do something together. Perhaps let's go canvassing and register some people to vote, or whatever you decide. And again, I'll just emphasize, make recruiting people to join your leadership team or your organizing committee a part of everything that you do. Some of the most amazing people saw something and came out to check it out and became incredible leaders.
Great. So once you have your organizing committee and you're having meetings and you're thinking of things you can do, we want to provide you options. So some things that you can do is you can meet with your lawmakers, you can meet with candidates, you can organize a group to attend a city council hearing, or you can also testify at that city council hearing. You can organize a group to attend a town hall or a candidate forum, or organize your own candidate forum. That would be amazing. You can hold a ballot party, organize a letter writing party. You can attend RAP statewide training. So we hold and are trying to hold RAP statewide trainings on a regular schedule. And so this can be a great way to bring people together. If you have a community room and if you're able to, you know, bring a group of you together to take part in this training and then talk afterwards about how it relates to your own local community group. You can also join a RAP action in Olympia next year. This past year, we had a couple of fun, creative actions. We went to Olympia with hard hats and shovels and with scrubs to really hone in on how important housing is, and I promise you those things were related to housing. And so we want to have more actions like that in Olympia next year, and you can suggest what we do as well. And we also have a housing and homelessness advocacy day that you can come in a group, you can come in your local community group. And so some examples of what we did, please, we want to hear your suggestions of what we could do this coming year. But this past year, what we did was we went first time to Olympia in hard hats and shovels to raise awareness about, passing the capital budget and how many shovel-ready projects are just waiting for the capital budget to be passed. And so we went around to every lawmaker with our hard hats and our shovels and gave them to everyone. And one lawmaker, in fact, even brought a shovel to the floor and is this, and can we talk about it? So that was amazing. And the next time we went to Olympia, we wore scrubs and we had little prescription pads with housing and health outcomes and how housing is so important for health outcomes. And so we had 8 bills that we wanted lawmakers to pass, and Mr. B is in the room right now and he would go around to, and as well as other RAP advocates, would go around to different lawmakers and say, take these 7 bills and pass them and call me in the morning. So that was just really fun. And again, going back to the fact that these actions can be really fun and should be really fun, it's something you can do and look forward to. Another thing you can do is knock on doors to educate and register voters, and you can hold community speakouts or storytelling gatherings.
Great. Well, thanks, Divya. And I think also mention a couple other examples of things we have done. One, and this is always great to have folks in the room. I'm looking at Belinda Springer, an amazing student and real change vendor who made a connection at her school at Highline College and was able to do an educational event that RAP leaders, including Belinda and Mr. B, who's right here, and Lisa Sawyer and AKA Lisa Seattle, and Sharon Jones, were able to talk directly to students and faculty and raise the level of people knowing about what's going on in a way that people, it's kind of like a lot of these things, by organizing and kind of coming together, it gives us the ability to shine a light on what's happening in the community, and having RAP leaders working together in South King County to be able to make that happen was incredibly important. And it opened up the door to, along with many areas, we participated in the National Low Income Housing Week of Action, and RAP on its own had more events than any other state in the entire country. And Belinda's work and the work of the RAP leaders at Highline, the South King County event, was at that college, and the college president came up. And now this is someone we can talk to about also testifying next year. So it's these activities that local people have that spread out that network, and there are people in this organization who've done it, and we can do even more together, and that gets back to learning from that. We also had events in Snohomish County, Bellingham, Centralia and Chehalis had 3 between them. The folks in Spokane got out and did something. Of course, South King, the Housing Alliance as a whole had an amazing power panel as part of that week. So it just showed what we can do. And Lisa Stridinger, otherwise known as Super Stridey or Lisa Centralia, she had a remark when we did the workshop at the Conference on Ending Homelessness that think about all those blue dots, because we had them represented by blue dots we could have next year at this time. So those are just some of the things that we can do, and there's hundreds. And it's the creativity that you have that can share with others can expand that even further, because even myself, you know, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. There's stuff I haven't even thought of that you have that we can do. So we're going to close. As we said, we wanted to kind of give you a large idea of a number of different things you can do, and it's certainly not exhaustive, but pretty much just to go on our continued path that we've been working together on, we've got some suggested next steps to not only help you build your group in the community and have a reason to come together, but also continue to steadily advance our power and our advocacy to be able to win the Super Bowl again next year. We got to build a dynasty, and I think we can. So what we're suggesting is that, and this is something that we've already talked about, and I know people are already working on happening, but we've got in-district lawmaker meetings that are planned to come up, and we want to do them here in the interim. And we're going to be following up with folks individually next week because it's time to start pulling that together. But this is an opportunity to have your one-on-one meetings with people you see as leaders and invite them into this common activity with your legislator. And Michelle Thomas, who many of you attended the training, has offered to work directly with groups, and we can as well before those meetings, because some of these are very sensitive, and we can make sure by working together that everybody's ready. And so the suggestion we have is that this is the perfect opportunity not only to build your committee and your leadership and maybe partner with some of these nonprofit partners in the process, and then you have an opportunity to hold a public event, to report back on what happened, and to let people know, to show that there's already a committee of leaders working to get on and join. And we're also going to suggest that a lot of what we're going to be doing and have done historically as RAP is knocking on doors in affordable housing complexes and in other areas where people are experiencing housing instability, because people who are in affordable housing vote. People who don't have a home vote. And the more the politicians know this, the more that they're going to do and the more power we'll be able to wield. So the other piece, and we mentioned it again, is we're going to be having a statewide summit to strategize, to kind of hone in on what we think our biggest policy priorities are going to be, and to network and to build community. And it's going to be probably September 22nd. We're still working on that final date. And probably in Central Washington, so that it's accessible for people all across the state, and we'll be working hard to get transportation and get people there. So that actually, that concludes our program. Yeah, so it's probably going to be in Yakima. We're going to be talking with Kelly and Ellie and other RAP leaders in the area and figure out if we can make that work. And like I said, this is an opportunity to work with nonprofit partners to help provide the resources to get people there. And what I'm hoping, and we've already seen this at the conference, is the strategy was to work to bring delegations of people from communities together to start building that, because no one is alone. And we had over 30 people in our strategy session from 8 different communities, and it really kind of launched things. And we've got an even better opportunity to get more people to this and have it entirely RAP focused and get us ready to that last push during the election, and really getting ready to let them know and hear our voice, a loud, unified voice in Olympia that will move mountains.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this training. If you have questions or comments, please don't hesitate to contact us. We really appreciate your time, and we hope that this has been a good learning experience for you. So thank you so much.